Hello everyone and welcome to our meditation session. Today we are going to do Brain Orbit Kriya. Brain Orbit Kriya is a Kriya that is focused on activation of the brain centers and the horizontal orbital current along the brain in counterclockwise direction. We can do Brain Orbit Kriya with or without the head movements. Normally we start with head movements and then do a few rounds without any movements and just mentally orbiting the head. Make a horizontal orbital current of prana around the 5 chakras in the brain. So along Kutasha, Rudri, chakra just below Bindu, and Bama, and Nirvana chakra. So maybe it's best to start to feel this experience, and just before we start, it is good to know that brain orbit kriya is quite an important kriya because as we can imagine, we are already just below Sahasrara, so we are at least in terms of anatomy, we are very high in the body, and not only in terms of anatomy, we are in the area of the brain. And the brain is the area of the most chakras, most minor chakras, micro chakras. In some way, all of the brain is chakra. So we can try and practice this brain orbit kriya with a deep sense of presence, awareness, and especially with some very subtle or spiritual type of bhakti or devotion. So let us take a few deep breaths. If we wish, we can even do a short Bhastrika pranayam or a short Kapalbhati pranayam, or we can just make a few deep and relaxed breaths. And we can also make these breaths a bit slower than usually. And try to come in that subtle type of spiritual bhakti. And then we can slowly proceed with the practice. We can bend the head forward and imagine that the forehead is mentally reciting Ba. Then let us bend toward the left shoulder and mentally recite Ga in the left part of the brain. Then let us bend our head back and mentally recite Va in the back side of the brain. And then let us move our head towards the right shoulder and mentally recite Te in the right side of the brain. And then we can come back with our head and move the head forward and mentally recite Va in the forehead and make a final stroke towards a normal head position and feel the energy flow towards the brain area just under the crown of the head while we mentally recite Su. So this was a very short, very fast first round. We might like to make it even faster if we can, but it's not a necessity. And now let us make a second round. Let us bend the head forward and imagine that the forehead is mentally reciting Ba, let us bend our heads toward the left shoulder and mentally recite Ga in the left part of the brain. Let us bend our head back and mentally recite Va in the back side of the brain. Let us move the head towards the right shoulder and mentally recite Te in the right shoulder. Then let us come back, move the head forward and mentally recite Va in forehead. Then let us make a final stroke toward the normal head position and feel that the last stroke of energy flow, of prana flow towards the area just below the crown of the head, which is sometimes referred to as a nirvana chakra, and mentally recite Su. And with that Su, we can imagine that nirvana chakra is energized, is the last recipient of all this energy flow of prana. We can remain in nirvana chakra for a few moments, and then let us make a third round, and after that we will do a few rounds on our own. So let us bend the head forward and imagine that the forehead is mentally reciting Ba. Let us move our head towards the left shoulder, mentally recite Ga in the left part of the brain. Let us bend our head back and mentally recite Va in the back side of the brain. Let us move toward the right shoulder and mentally recite Te in the right side of the brain. Then come back and mentally move the head forward and mentally recite Ba in the forehead. And then the final stroke to make a head in a normal position and mentally recite Su in area just below the crown of the head. So this was the third round. As we know, as we can see, we are reciting Bhagavate Vasu. So this is part of the quite known mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is a very devotional type of mantra, devoting Om, the highest sound, devoting all ourselves, our soul, our spirit towards the divine consciousness that is present in all the hearts of the humankind, in all the hearts at all, in all the beings. So, as we can see, this mantra alludes to cultivation of bhakti or devotion. And let us cultivate this devotion, and we can now proceed with a few rounds of brain orbit kriya on our own and just feel the flow of prana in our head. So let's start. Fourth round. Fifth. Sixth. Seventh. We can of course adjust the pace to accommodate our needs of cultivating the proper atmosphere, the proper devotion. We can circulate our brain chakras a bit faster or slower, whatever we find more uplifting and spiritual, and just focus on the qualitatively changing all the chakras along this route, and especially let us feel that the nirvana chakra is the last recipient, the area just below the crown of the head, and that this last recipient is connected with Sahasrara. And when we are ready, we can make a brain orbit totally without the head movements. And we can start, we can make few up to 12 or maybe even more if you wish, brain orbits without head movements, which in some way is even more important. Bhagavate Vasu. Bhagavate Vasu. Bhagavate Vasu. You should also try not to be rigid in this brain orbit, so let the orbit be an ellipse or circle, but not an rectangularly shaped object. So it should be as smooth as possible, as ellipsoid, as circular as possible. Bhagavate Vasu. Bhagavate Vasu. Bhagavate Vasu. And as the chakra just below the crown of the head is the last recipient of this brain orbit kriya, after many repetitions, we might feel that this chakra is becoming different in its consciousness. It's becoming higher and also stronger. And But this change, we can already feel some of the lower parts of Sahasrara. So we can also feel the connection between nirvana chakra and Sahasrara, especially in the last few rounds. And we can cultivate that connection as well, especially in advanced versions of brain orbit kriya. And once we feel we are ready, we can make the last few breaths and then slowly start to open our eyes and come back to daily life. So this was a brain orbit kriya, a quite advanced kriya that stimulates the majority of the most important centers in our body, in our brains. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I wish that you have a nice time, and see you soon.